you guys for joining. I'm Steve Davis. I'm the president of Tallmadge Soccer. Just quick background on myself. I actually am a graduate of Tallmadge High School. I played soccer at Tallmadge. I started coaching soccer in '91 and got involved with the Premier Club, which was Emerald at the time, became Everest, and now it's FC Evolution. I own and run that club, FC Evolution, out of Hudson. I'm the girls' soccer coach at Tallmadge High School. I used to coach the Olympic program for the state, and then for the region, I was a Region 2 coach, and I was a state coaching school instructor for about 20-some years. So soccer is kind of my life. In this role with Tallmadge, I'm a volunteer, so I'm the just a member of the board, and we have a number of people on the board that have unique positions. People that actually take care of the fields. Tony Leipold is the vice president. He also is kind of the field manager and takes care of that stuff. Linda Brown is our micro and rec director. Tom Diamond is our classic director. Steve Stazak is our treasurer. Michelle Skavdis is our registrar. Nate Richards kind of is all things classic as well. So we have some members on the board, but we're all volunteers. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that as we kind of move forward into the meeting. I'm going to share my screen here. Hopefully this works again. Okay, so when players register for the club, the first thing you should get is an email that's an order confirmation, and that order confirmation would kind of give you some information and say, okay, thanks for registering. It would give you some information about the about your bill, what that looks like. Let me go back to it here. And then it also has a big letter here that kind of breaks down the program. Here's our micro program, rec program, academy, classic. So this should be, everybody should basically receive this with a lot of information about the program. That comes automatically. It's an automatically generated email. So if you have questions about the program, hopefully a lot of those questions are answered in the email that was sent to you. Okay. If you didn't see that email, go and check through scan through your inbox and see if you can find this email with basic information. Now, as we break down our rec and micro programs, basically we have, for the purposes of trying to give parents the ability to plan, we've said, okay, Monday and Wednesday is when we'd like teams to practice from 6 to 7 for a couple reasons. One, so parents can plan. Two, so that we can have hopefully coaches there and do some kind of tag teaming. If we have sometimes where a coach can't make it, we could put two teams together that day. If we have, do what we call kind of group training. It makes it difficult to do that if we say practice whenever you want, whatever time you want, whatever day you want, then you don't get the group training part. It also makes it difficult for parents to plan. However, what we have found is a lot of the coaches are resistant to that, and they go, well, listen, because it's all volunteers, we can't be there at Monday or Wednesday. We need to practice Tuesday or Thursday if you want us to coach. So be aware that there's the possibility that your coach could reach out to you and say that they have to change the day. But we're going to push hard to steer people into coaching or running their practices on a Monday or Wednesday from 6 to 7 at the fairgrounds. Okay, so that's kind of the plan. You will get a t-shirt. You don't get shorts or socks. What we have been doing instead of that, and the reason why I don't do the shorts and socks, again, all volunteers, the more stuff we have to give out that has a size, the more chance we have of that size being wrong, and then it takes hours and hours for the few people on the board to go get you the right size shorts and the right size t-shirt and all that stuff. So we just kind of cut it down. We really only need t-shirts, so we're just going to get everybody a t-shirt that's a different color. That's how we'll satisfy the games. If you want to wear whatever color shorts you want to wear is fine. I don't really care. We can tell the difference between kids with just their t-shirt. Whatever socks you want to wear is fine, whatever color there. But we do give the kids a ball. Usually that's a ball in the spring. Everybody gets a soccer ball. You'll get that somewhere, usually like 3 or 4 weeks into the season. But we'll try to give everybody a soccer ball because we think that in order to be a soccer player, you have to have a soccer ball. And if you have 2 soccer balls or 3, that's even better. So everybody's hopefully going to get a soccer ball this spring, and then the fall we typically give everybody a picture. So we'll take a team photo, and everybody gets a copy of that picture. The club pays for that. So just be aware of that's kind of how the program kind of lays out. And then in this email as well, there's a link here that links us to this presentation, which I'm going to go through kind of now. So if I click that button, it should take you into this slideshow. So again, everybody should be able to follow along. Can everybody see this? Is it on your screen? The player parent?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So you can follow along on your own just by looking up that email and going through this. So I'll go through this kind of quick. But this is the information we kind of want all parents to know. So we're going to talk about the role of the parent, understanding the world of soccer, expectations for players and parents, day of the match, and then post-game reflection. And we'll do it kind of quick. So the big thing is role of the parent is to provide positive support. You're a role model. Be out there to try to make it as fun as you can for your child, but also, you know, for the rest of the program. If you can try to help the referees to referee better, that's great. If you can help the other players on your team to get organized, to get on the field and get warmed up, that's fantastic. If you can be positive when it comes to cheering for both sides, because we really don't care about the score. We want the games to kind of be able to be executed. The kids that can get through the games and play the games and have fun. But that's really what it's about. It's not about, you know, who wins and who loses so much. It's about, hey, let's go out and have a good time. Let's show good sportsmanship. Let's be positive role models. So I think that's pretty important. Player development. When we're talking about micro and rec, it was interesting. I had a questionnaire I put out to parents a couple of years ago, and I asked how important is player development. And there was a lot of people that actually said player development is not important at all. And I'm kind of here to explain why player development should be a major concern for all of our parents and when we're involved in the program. It's something that we definitely should be thinking about as we move forward through this program. So I'm going to talk about player pathways in a second. But before I talk about that, when we talk about player development, there's two things: environment and time. You want to be in the right environment for as long as you can be, and as long as you're in that right environment, then you're going to develop to whatever pathway that you're on, that level. But basically, if you want to be a high school player someday, you want to be a competitive level player, then you need good coaching, you need good teammates playing around you, you need good competition. If you have those three things, then you're probably in a good environment for your child to develop. And then it's just how long can you be in that environment. The longer you're in that environment, the better. Player pathways. So we talk about, you know, what are player pathways? Player pathways are basically this. Whatever road you get on, whether it's rec, classic, premier, elite, it leads somewhere. And so, for example, if you're a recreational player and your kids are 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, we want them to start off in rec. That's where most players start off. And basically, rec is for fun. We want kids to be introduced to the game, love it, and hopefully come back and want to come back for more and keep growing and developing as a player. That's kind of the thing that we're really trying to push here. Let me get out and try to admit this person here real quick. How do I do that and this at the same time? Okay, I guess I got to escape out of that. Okay, admit. Okay, so back into here. Recreational soccer leads to fun. If you play at the classic level, and we should be thinking about players going on to the classic level, that usually starts at like U8 and it goes through U14. And that leads to players basically being relatively prepared for high school. If you want to be a top-level high school player, one of the best players in your high school team, then you probably should play Premier. If you want to play at the college level, then you need to play Premier. If you want to be a top-level college player, or you want to play pro or national team someday, then the elite level is where you want to be. But it's important for parents to understand where these player pathways lead. So here's another kind of way to look at player pathways. So number one, in Tallmadge, we start off and we offer these two levels. We offer recreational, which is for U3 through U14. It's designed to be fun. It's just to introduce kids to the game, get some exercise and have fun. Then you move on to the next level, and that's classic. So when we talk about our classic programs, that's for kids U8 through U14. We identify that as our U8 Academy, and then we have our classic teams. So the Academy is kind of where we try to filter kids out, and starting this year, one of the things we're going to try to do is come in and identify players that are 7 and 8 years old for who we think can compete at the Academy level in the fall. And you would be invited then to play with the Academy team in the fall. But that's for players that we think are ready to move on to the classic level. So if you're in the Academy program in the fall, then we may move you on, the following fall and say we recommend you go to classic. Some players that are really athletic and really have a nose for the game and are good might be recommended they go to the Premier level. So we're trying to use that Academy level to kind of point players to the right, get them on the right pathway so it leads to where they want to be long term. Of course, kids can always choose that, hey, My pathway doesn't lead to playing high school soccer, so I'm fine just playing rec, no problem. Some players might say, I want to be at the classic level. My pathway is I want to play college soccer someday. So that means that we want to make sure we get you involved in a premier program. Premier programs go basically U9 through U18. If you want to play at the college or you want to be a top-level high school player, then you really need to consider playing at the premier level. That's playing in leagues like the CASA League, the Central Alliance Soccer Association League. It's based out of Lodi. Or you can, and that's the local Premier League in Northeast Ohio. Or you could play in like a regional league where you go on and you play in the GLA or the NPL, the MDL, and that's a regional league, meaning you're playing against teams from PA West, you're playing teams from Ohio North, Ohio South, maybe even New York West. So that's the league there if you're playing at the Premier level and on the regional teams. If you're just playing at the local level and the Premier level, then that means you're playing in a local Premier League, so that's more Northeast Ohio. If you're in an elite league, then you're playing in national level leagues. That's usually for U13s through U19s. That leads to players being top level college players and pro. But that's playing in national leagues where your league games. It's kind of like a regional league where you'll play the same thing. You'll have teams from Ohio North and Ohio South, and you'll have teams from PA West, New York West, Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin. Those are your league games, and then you'll play in showcases in Arizona, Florida, California. That's kind of how that works. Okay, I got to admit somebody else here. So that's kind of how player pathways work. We're starting out, and you guys are again at the rec level, but we would like you to understand how all these levels work and make sure that whatever level your kid wants to be at, they get on the right pathway. Because sometimes if they wait too long, it can be too late. One of the things we find as a high school coach is I have kids that have played rec all the way up through, and they walk into the high school program and find themselves not prepared, and they're surprised they don't make the varsity team, potentially their entire career when they're there, and that's not something we want to happen. So we just want to make sure everybody understands how this kind of works. Expectations for players. Obviously, players should be on time, they should have a good attitude, they should be prepared. One thing that kids don't do, a lot of kids forget to bring a soccer ball. They need to bring a soccer ball. Really, really important to have a soccer ball. And that ball should be inflated, which means if you put all your weight with 2 thumbs on one panel of that ball, if you can push in with all your weight and more than one panel dents, then that means your ball needs air. You want to make sure that only one panel can you dent in with all an adult's weight, 2 thumbs on one panel. That means your ball is properly inflated. But we have a lot of kids that show up without a ball, or they show up with a ball that is completely flat. That means it's kind of useless. And the ball is what they use to get better. That's how they're going to develop and improve. So if they don't have a good ball, they're really starting at a disadvantage. In addition, shoes, shin guards, water, all those things are important. And then obviously you want parents to be a positive role model and supportive and all that stuff. Soccer ball size chart. For the younger kids, U3 through U6, they should use a size 3. For U7 through 11, they should be thinking about a size 4. And size 5 is for players. Technically, it's for U13 and up, but if I was recommending it, I'd say get a size 5 at U12 just to kind of get used to that bigger soccer ball. But there's a ball chart. Day of the game nutrition, what the kids should eat, arrival times, warm-up, hydration. You guys can read this. The big thing, though, please try to be at your games 30 minutes before. Practice, you can show up 5 minutes before the start of practice. But for games, it's a good idea to get there 30 minutes before so you can find your field. Your coach knows you're there, warm up, all that kind of stuff. It's always a nightmare for coaches when kids are showing up right at game time or 5 minutes into the game, especially when we have some kind of slim rosters. It's really important that players are there on time. Last slide, post-game reflection. Just ask your kids, try not to be too much pressure, obviously, on them. But what went well? That's a good question to ask. What can you improve, and what are you gonna do next time? Just it's a little bit different, to kind of, to get a different outcome if you weren't happy with what the outcome was today. So just use that Socratic method, question them rather than point fingers and stuff like that. It should all be fun, but the goal is to develop and improve. Okay, that's it for that. Any questions about that parent information thing? Anyone? Great, let's move on. So I believe that the rosters were posted. If you go to the website and you log in, you should be able to navigate to this Team Central, Team Directory area. And under this, you can find your team. So you just go into this area, Team Central, Team Directory, and I can select the 2023 season. And I can select if my child is, let's say, placed for the U3 through U7 micro league. And that doesn't mean that we have 3-year-olds playing with 7-year-olds. We just categorize it like this for the purpose of how our website works. We have basically 2 divisions here. We have a U5 division and a U7 division. So the 3-year-olds are playing with basically 3 and 4-year-olds. And the U7 division is basically 5 and 6-year-olds, kids that are under 7 years old. So that would be 3 and 4-year-olds, and then 5 and 6-year-olds would be considered U7. Hopefully that makes sense. So here, let's say that you were assigned to the Blue Frogs Team 1A. You can go and click on that and go to your team home page. And you'll see on your team home page, could be just some basic information. Under roster, you should have your team roster and your coach. You'll see on this team that there's 7 players. Here's the coach. Players could put their picture in here. It'll only give first names. It won't give last names for privacy concerns. I have some more buttons than you probably have. I can print the roster, edit the roster. You guys should be able to do that, but you should be able to see your roster and see your coach. If you navigate to some teams, you might find that they don't have a coach. And so if your team doesn't have a coach, that's something we really need to talk about. So we'll talk about that here in a minute. But just want to make sure that you guys understand that you should be able to access your roster. Calendar, I'm not sure if we're going to have something here under calendar or not. Once we post the game schedule, it may populate here. I'm not 100% sure. We'll have to see about that. I know that if you go in under, there's a way to navigate to your game schedule and see that. For some reason, right this second, it's escaping me how you do that. Must be under posted schedules, Team Central posted schedules. So you should be able to find your games here, but it might also be on your team homepage under calendar. Don't quote me on that. Email, you should be able to email your team through here. I believe everybody can do this, so if you have questions, you can just basically do a select all on everybody, and you can email everybody in the team a question, or just the coach, or somebody else in your team. I think everybody has access to that, not just the coach, but not positive. And then there's an area for files if somebody wants to upload something, a training schedule or pictures or something like that, you can do that under that area. But kind of a useful little area to be able to kind of see what's going on with your team, who's on your team, talk to them, communicate, see your potentially your schedule, that kind of thing. Once the schedules are posted, you should be able to find those as well through here. Any questions about that on website kind of navigation and what's up here? If you're logged in, you should have access to a bunch more buttons. Some of these buttons are hidden unless you are like a coach. I don't think this button shows up. But a lot of the other buttons do. Any questions about that?
Are you guys using an app like that you put the game schedule into?
So there is a partner app called the Game Changer app. I don't know how exactly that Game Changer app works. You can use it. So if your coach is excited and says, yeah, I want to use the Game Changer app, and somebody in your team is willing to figure it out, you can have everybody download the Game Changer app. It partners basically with our Sports Connect site, and you can pull in your team information. So you can pull your roster in, you can pull your game schedule in, and all that stuff is at your fingertips. But I don't know exactly how, excuse me, how that is done. But I'm sure somebody in your team, I know that everybody in my club at FC Evolution has always figured it out. So, and I just haven't had the time to actually go in and use that app yet. I use Google Calendars for my stuff. So I don't kind of mess around with that, but the team managers always figure it out. So the answer is yes, if somebody's willing to try it. Any other questions? Okay, so should be able to access whatever information you need on our website at tallmadgesoccer.com. Volunteers, this is a big thing. So we've had some pushback on this. So as we said at the beginning, we have a board that's made up of about 6 or 7 people that are on the board. Each board member donates between 40 and 100 hours of their time every year to the Tallmadge soccer program. But we find that we really need another 30 or 40 people to be involved just to really make the club run the way it should run. And the first year we put out some pleas, to people and said, hey, please can you get involved and become a volunteer? Crickets. Nobody got involved. And so we started to kind of look at what some other programs in Tallmadge do in order to get volunteers, because again, this is every one of us are volunteers. How do we get more people involved? Well, we kind of took the baseball program and the football program as an example in Tallmadge, and they all require parents to volunteer a certain amount of their time to the program, or they have to pay a little bit more for their registration fees. So we took a page from them. We said that's what we're going to do, and so we've asked all parents to volunteer 2 hours of their time to the program over the course of this spring in order to make the program a success. And I don't think 2 hours is too onerous or burdensome. And basically, what we're looking to do is, for example, Tony Lipo, like I said, takes care of all the fields. We really need some people to go down and help him line the fields, things like that. There's been 3 or 4 people that actually volunteered to do that part, helping us line fields, potentially fix some, patch some areas in the field. Tony actually got a neighbor who came down and helped out last year that has nothing to do with the club whatsoever, but he volunteered about 10 hours of his time to help with the fields, which is great. But really should be people within the club, I think, helping with that. We've had some people push back and say, we need how come the concession stand isn't open? Well, a concession stand requires a concession stand manager. We would love to have the concession stand open. It's another way for the club to earn some money, and then we can invest in the fields. We bought new goals last year for all the rec fields, but it costs a lot of money to buy new goals. We can use that money to buy goals. We can use that money to buy the soccer balls the kids get, that kind of thing. So having the concession stand open requires somebody to say, yeah, I'll be the concession stand manager. I will, from our list of volunteers, I will assign a certain amount of people to cover each game and make sure that we have the concession stand open and we can have that running. Great. That's another thing that would be really helpful. I've wanted to have field marshals at the games. We've tried to put signs on the fields that clearly mark what the fields are. This is field 1A, field 1B, 2A, 2B, and so on. But it would be nice if you had a field marshal there saying, because I don't know how many people have come in and said, where's my daughter play? And you go, who's your daughter? This is my daughter. What team's she on? I have no idea. What time's the game? Don't know. I was just told we had to be here around this time. Well, if we had a field marshal, they could be there with a schedule that's actually kind of helping and direct people to kind of where they're going. Now, again, I would like people to take personal responsibility and know what team they're on and what field they're supposed to play on. But it wouldn't be a bad idea to have a couple field marshals there, dressed in a neon yellow shirt that everybody can identify, that can basically help people to find their fields. The biggest thing that we need, though, are coaches. If you navigate into your team, you might find that your team doesn't have a coach. When we first started this off, and we were like putting our teams together, we had 16 teams and only 2 people that volunteered to coach. Linda, who's the rec director, she was smart about it and goes, hey, I think if I put this person on this team, then we might be able to convince them to coach because they've been here before, they have some experience, and we can maybe just by putting there saying enough coach, maybe they'll volunteer. So she kind of tactically did that and moved some people into those roles, and then I think she emailed people and said, please, we need some coaches. And she has improved that number from 2, but it's definitely not 16 coaches. I want to say that we're like around maybe 8 or 9. So we need like another 8 or 9 coaches to be involved with the rec program, just to have each team have a coach. So I guess my big impassioned plea here today is, if you look at your roster and there's no coach assigned, that means there's nobody on your team to coach. We need somebody from that team to volunteer and become the coach. Here's the responsibility with coaching. Number 1, you can, again, it would help if you could do your practice on Monday or Wednesdays because it might convenience your players better because that's what they were expecting. If we had said any day, then I'd have parents call me, bugging me, saying, what days they practice, what time's practice, where's the practice? If I write it down, then they have an idea. But now that they have that idea and they think it's Monday or Wednesday and you want to practice on Thursday, that could be an issue. So we have to kind of figure that out. But regardless, we need coaches. So if you're available to do that, whatever day you can do it, we'll try to figure it out and make it work. So 1 practice a week and 1 game. The game would be on Sunday. I'm assuming that people would be at the game regardless because you got to take your kid there. So that really is no extra commitment. The practice, if you say, well, I can be at 5 of the practices, but I can't make 7, or I can, or whatever, or 8. Okay, well, we might be able to find somebody from your team to volunteer and fill in for that 1 game. That's a great solution. Or we can do this tag teaming thing. Like we said, we can do some group training where Linda last year, for example, she would have 2 or 3 teams training with her at once, and she just have them all just practice together. And that's not hard to do when your roster is only like 6 or 7 kids. It's not a problem to say we're going to train 2 teams together and have 12 kids there. And a lot of times you wouldn't have your full roster there anyway. So the big thing is volunteer coaches are paramount. We need those people to do that. If you do volunteer, by the way, you get a refund and your fee comes back. So whatever you paid for your session fee, that's free. So basically it's a free session for your kid to play if you're willing to volunteer to coach. Any questions about that? I think there was something else I was supposed to say I forgot. Any questions? Okay. So again, really need coaches, really need people to volunteer for the field staff. If you want to open concession stand, that kind of thing, field marshals, all that stuff would be great. If you have a suggestion on how you can help out, if you're a web person and you want to help out with a website, if you're a photographer and you want to take pictures of the games and give us art that we can use for the website and put up on our social media pages, we would love to do that. If you shoot videos, just little videos of the game, little things that we can turn into a promotion where we put it up on our Facebook page or whatever, the kids love to see themselves. Parents usually love to share that stuff around and look at my son, who just scored a goal this weekend. If we have little clips of that kind of stuff, that's awesome as far as promoting the club. People love it. So that's another way to volunteer. If you have any other ideas on how you could help out the program, we are always willing to listen. One parent last year said, I'm an expert in marketing. That's where my degree is in. That's what I do for a living. And that person volunteered to help us market.
Fry 277, US 224
Okay, so if you're available to help with that, just let me know. Okay, so that's, I think.
Excuse me, I have a question about the field managers and things. Is somebody going to be getting in touch with me about that?
So are you saying that you are the field manager? Or you're interested?
I have volunteered already to be like head of field something or other, or
awesome.
That's what it said in the page.
I know that Linda, who Linda, I'm not sure if Linda's on the meeting or not, but Linda's our director of rec, and Linda had passed on the field crew, people that volunteered to be field crew and field managers to Tony Leipold.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that Tony is going to get a hold of you. Yes.
Okay. Great.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yep. Okay, so now it's just open to question and answer. Is it any questions, or I will do my best to help. You guys are so easy. Nobody ever asks any questions. But then the second we hang up, I'll have 20 people email me with questions. Does anybody have a question because I'm sure that it would apply to everybody else here if you have a question.
They have to have.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead. So they have to have cleats, correct?
You don't have to have cleats. Cleats just help you stand up. So if it's really wet and you're running around, the cleats will help you dig into the field and not fall down as much. The field's dry, then you can get away with just wearing, just tennis shoes or whatever you got. I mean, again, for a 3-year-old, tennis shoes are probably fine. But the older you get, the more you can cut and change direction and stuff like that. You probably want to have cleats just for the field conditions.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Any other questions?
Steve, if I may, I'd like to add to her comment about the cleats.
Yep.
So, like Steve said, if your child is in the three-year-old or 5-year-old group, the cleats aren't necessarily a requirement. However, the shin guards are a requirement, and our referees will check and they'll make sure that they have their shin guards on underneath their socks before each of the games. So I just wanted to add that in there.
Yeah, Stephanie asked what we said any color shorts, what color socks. I really don't care. So we did tell people one year, the very first year I did it, I said black shorts and black socks, and everybody got upset that they had to go out and find black shorts and black socks. So the truth of the matter is, we don't care. As long as the referees can tell the difference between teams, you're on the red team, they're on the purple team, no problem. We're not at a high school level where referees are looking at the sock color to tell who the ball went off of. So it doesn't really matter. So I'm good with anything there. Okay. One other thing too, I guess there was sorry, let me go through a couple of these questions too. So my daughter's 10, was told there wasn't a team for travel. So this is Cindy Steinel is asking this question. Her daughter's 10, and there wasn't a team for travel. So for travel, that means the classic level. Cindy, so are you a classic, like trying to get in the classic? Did you sign up for that program and then end up in the rec? Or are you a rec player and you're saying there's no rec team at that age? Because I'm pretty sure there is a rec team for 10-year-olds. Any clarification on that, Cindy? Okay, maybe Cindy left.
Oh, now can you hear me?
Oh, yep, I can hear you.
Yeah, we signed up for the travel team.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that when you were saying that about, you don't want to get too far behind as far as being in rec.
Yeah.
So they said they didn't have enough players for girls. Or
that's definitely possible. And so if that's the case, I mean, she could then do the rec program. But there's other options too. You can give me a call or shoot me a text. Can you write down my phone number right now? I'll give everybody my phone number if you want it. My phone is
okay.
330-673-3330. And we can talk about other options.
Okay.
Okay.
What was that again? 330?
330-673-3330.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, somebody else.
Is that for Ava, Cindy?
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
Zach is in travel.
Michelle asks, when do practices and games start? So you should have received. Let me look at that too. There should have been a calendar that I sent out, and basically what I've asked. Here's always the tricky part when we get into the early part of spring. The field conditions are usually too wet. It's not about whether it's raining at the time, because it might be raining, but the fields are dry, so the rain doesn't bother us. It's if the fields are saturated and we go out and we mud them up, then the fields will be destroyed for the entire spring, and then that'll translate into fall too. So we try to protect our fields early on. So basically, just be aware of that. We have the parent meeting tonight. We have the game schedules hopefully going to be posted on April 8th. We're doing a referee online seminar on the 9th. Then an optional meet the coach on April 12th. And so what I meant by that was all the coaches who are coaching teams, and again, we're still short coaches, but in theory, the coaches can email their teams through the website or through the Game Changer app. And they could say, hey, we're going to have our first practice on April 12th. And that's a chance to get out and meet the coach and have a little practice or whatever, which is great. But our first games aren't until the 23rd, so we figured if we had to wait till the following week and have our first practice on the 19th, that wouldn't be bad. But we wanted to make sure people had the option to get out there and practice on the 12th if they wanted to. Does that make sense? Does that answer that question, Michelle? So, in theory, on the 12th. If not, then the 19th, but we'll let the coaches kind of choose that. One other thing, too, that I wanted to mention, too, when Linda and I are putting these teams together, and by the way, Linda did most of it here. She's wonderful. We basically go through and we look at the players that register, and then we just start to kind of combine players based on their age, and we say, okay, what makes sense here? We're going to put 3- and 4-year-olds together. We're going to put then 5- and 6-year-olds together. Do we have enough to make a league? When we looked at the 3-year-olds this year, there are 3- 4-year-olds, there was only 15 or 16 kids that registered. And so the issue there, it's like, okay, well, how do we make teams out of that? You could do 4 teams of 4, with one team only having 3, but then, and we're playing 3 versus 3, everybody better show up. And what we tried to do that last year with rosters of for 3v3, with rosters like 5 and 6 players, like the rosters were 5 or 6 players. And there were a couple teams that had 2 players show up every week, only 2 for their team. And so they couldn't play. You don't have a game there. You don't have a team. So we decided this year with the U3s that we would do is we would put together a roster of 8 or 9 kids and only have 2 teams, and they just play each other every week. They don't know the difference of, and again, it's in-house, that kind of thing. But we did that for the simple reason of, the numbers that we have. U.S. Soccer has standards. Just so everybody understands this, at U13 you play 11v11, 11 players versus 11 players, and that's on a full-size field, a minimum of 100 yards long and 50 yards wide. And then they scale back from there. And the reason being is if you're playing 11v11, 22 players are sharing one ball. So that's not a whole lot of touches that each kid gets on the ball. If everything being equal, you get about 2.5 minutes on the ball. If everybody touches the ball for a 90-minute game in professional, they only touch the ball for about 2.5 minutes in pro. So what U.S. Soccer has tried to do is basically move that back each year. So at U11, they play 99. At U9, they play 7v7. At U7, you're supposed to play 5v5. At U5, you play 3 versus 3. And the reason being is you're sharing the ball with less people, so you'll touch it a lot more. And the touches are what make you better. You know, you get chances to get on the ball, use your skill, make decisions, that sort of thing. So that's why we scale it back. So I know in the past, like Sousa, for example, used to play like 8 versus 8 with 3 and 4 year olds, and it's like, boy, they're just not getting much contact in the ball when there's that many people sharing one ball. So we're trying to follow the U.S. Soccer model and try to have, you know, small-sided games for those younger ages. But the challenge is, do we have enough kids to field a team? Do you have, you know, then you need a lot more coaches because you have a lot more teams, and only 3 or 4 kids, you know, or if you have 6 kids in a team or 7 kids in a team, you know, then you need 1 coach from those 7 people. So it's a lot trickier to do it that way, but it's the right way to do it. So we just want to kind of make sure everybody aware of why we made that decision, of how we put the teams together. And by the way, too, Linda went through everybody's requests and tried to do her best to put people where they wanted to be, but she also had to take in consideration, there was one team, I think, that had like 4 people on the team that were legitimate, could coach, that were legitimate coaches and had coaching experience, but they all wanted to be on the same team. So she separated them for the simple purpose of trying to make sure that each team had a coach. So just understand, a lot of planning and thought goes into it. We do the best that we can, and hopefully it all works out. Any more questions? Well, thank you guys for coming. I hope this helps. I did record tonight's meeting. I'm planning to post it to YouTube for anybody that missed it. I'll try to get that up there. Hopefully the screen recorder worked, even though my camera didn't. Okay, that's it. If you have any questions, you're welcome to text me or give me a call. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.